All right, let's dive in. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Today, we're tackling something I think a lot of us can relate to, training your attention. You sent over that excerpt from
Right,
The
yeah.
Attention Revolution, and it's
Mhm.
pretty amazing, the idea of a cure for distraction. I mean, who
Yeah,
wouldn't want that, right?
right. It's a big one. And this book, it really digs into not just the problem, like it doesn't
Right.
shy away from that, but it lays out a solution,
Yeah.
which is rare, I think.
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't sugarcoat anything. Right from the start, it compares our
Yeah.
untrained minds to, like,
Yeah.
wild
I
elephants.
love that.
Powerful, but, like,
Right.
totally prone to wandering off and just, like,
Totally.
wreaking havoc.
It's a great analogy, I think. It really drives home like why it feels like we're constantly fighting our own minds.
Yeah.
That sense of like being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah, that scattered feeling. When I was reading the excerpt you sent, I was nodding along to those parts about like zoning out while you're driving or like totally missing
Relax.
parts of a conversation.
Okay, it happens.
It's almost embarrassing how often, honestly.
But it's so common, right? I mean, the book even calls it
Yeah.
attention deficit and hyperactivity. And yeah, that makes you think of
Yeah.
ADHD, of course.
Hmm.
But the author's point is that even those of us without a diagnosis, we all kind of experience these imbalances.
So it's like we all have a little bit of that
Yeah,
wild elephant in us.
exactly. Exactly. But the good news is, like, you can train an elephant, right?
Mm.
You can train your attention. That's where the Shamatha meditation comes in.
Okay, Shamatha, tell me more about that. Sounds kind of intense.
It is, in a way, but it's so cool. Shamatha, pronounced shamatha. It's this practice that's been around for centuries in the Buddhist tradition. And the goal is to develop incredibly powerful, like stable attention to the point where you can effortlessly maintain focus for like hours.
Hours. Okay, I'm intrigued, but also a little intimidated. I can barely sit still for 5 minutes.
And that's what's so great about this approach. The book, it lays out a really systematic path. It breaks shamatha training down into these 10 stages.
10 stages. Okay, this is starting to feel like a mental marathon, honestly.
Think of it more as like a gradual climb, I guess. Each stage builds on the last one. And you start with really short periods of focused attention, like literally seconds at first.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you gradually increase that over time.
So it's like training for a marathon, but for your mind. You start small, right?
Exactly. And the book gives you really specific techniques to guide you through each stage.
Okay, all right. I'm ready to hear about these
Well,
techniques. Where do we even begin?
the foundation really is mindfulness of breathing, which sounds deceptively simple.
Yeah. I was curious about that part, just paying attention to your breath. How hard can that be?
Well, the key is in the details,
Mm.
honestly. The book, it talks about the importance of posture. Your physical body, it actually influences your mental state, which,
I'm interesting.
yeah, and then you settle into this stillness and you begin to observe the breath.
Just observe. So I'm not like trying to control it or change it.
Exactly. You're just noticing the sensations, the rise and fall of your chest, maybe the coolness of the air as you inhale, the warmth as you exhale.
Okay. It sounds so simple, but I can already feel my mind like wanting to jump ahead, to analyze, to plan.
Totally normal. That's actually part of the process.
Yeah.
When you realize your mind has wandered, you just gently bring it back without judgment.
It's almost like training a puppy.
I love that analogy. You don't get mad when it gets distracted. You just gently redirect it.
Exactly. And consistency is key, right? Just like with a puppy, the more you bring your attention back, the stronger that focus becomes.
Precisely. And you build that continuity of attention, which is crucial as you move through the stages of shamatha.
So how long do I have to sit here and count my breaths before I reach enlightenment?
That's where this next technique comes in. The book introduces this idea of counting your breaths, which they compare to like using training wheels for your mind.
Training wheels for your mind. I like that.
Yeah, so the counting gives you this simple thing to focus on. It helps keep your mind from wandering too far. But the key here is that the counting shouldn't become the main thing. The sensations of the breath are still like primary.
So it's just a gentle reminder to bring my attention back when it inevitably drifts away.
Exactly, exactly.
This is already giving me so much to think about. I'm starting to see how powerful these simple techniques can be, but it also makes me realize how much work is involved in training your attention. This isn't going to happen overnight.
It's a practice,
Yeah.
like any practice.
Right.
You know, it takes patience, discipline, and a willingness to just show up consistently. But the rewards, they're so worth the effort.
Okay, I believe you. I'm ready to dive deeper.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork, right? Mindfulness of breathing, counting those breaths.
Yeah.
What's next in this journey to like attentional mastery?
So we're going to shift gears a little bit now. The next stage, it focuses on developing what the book calls
Uh,
bare attention.
Bear attention. Okay, that sounds kind of intriguing. What
Yeah.
does that even mean?
Think about it this way. How often are you really present in the moment?
Hmm.
Like truly experiencing things directly through your senses
Right,
without, all the mental chatter.
right.
Bare attention, it's about stripping away those layers of thought, judgment, and just perceiving the world as it is.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But it sounds so difficult. My mind is always racing, analyzing, interpreting.
It is a skill. It takes practice,
Mm.
but it's so powerful. The book, it gives this great example of like eating mindfully.
Oh, okay.
Instead of just shoveling food in your mouth while you're thinking about your to-do list, you slow down and really pay attention to the experience.
Okay, I can see where this is going. So, like, I notice the colors, the shapes of the food, the textures, smells, taste.
Exactly. You're engaging all your senses, but
Mm.
like without adding any commentary.
Right.
You're not judging it, you're just experiencing it.
I've actually tried something like that before. I read somewhere that if you eat a raisin really mindfully, it's like a whole new experience. And I have to admit, it was kind of amazing how much more I noticed when I really slowed down and paid attention.
Isn't it incredible? And that's just a little taste of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
When you cultivate this bare attention, imagine applying that to every aspect of your life.
Okay, I'm sold on the idea.
Yeah.
But I'm still a little fuzzy on how bare attention fits into the whole shamatha thing.
So remember we talked about the 10 stages.
Hmm.
Bare attention, it really comes into play starting around stage 5.
Ah, okay. So we've got stages 1 through 4, right?
Yep.
Directed attention, continuous attention, resurgent attention, and close attention. Those are all like primarily focused on the breath.
Yeah.
Dang.
Those first 4, it's all about recognizing when your attention wanders and gently bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's like building those foundational muscles.
Okay, that makes sense. So stage 5 is where things get really interesting.
Yes.
What's it called?
Stage 5 is called tamed attention. And it's a pretty significant shift in the practice. So instead of focusing on the breath, we turn our attention inward.
Inward. Okay, what does that even mean?
The book calls it settling the mind in its natural state. So basically, instead of focusing on something external, like the breath, you become aware of your own mind.
Okay.
You're observing all the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise.
So it's like meditation on my own thoughts.
In a way, yeah. But it's not about getting caught up in them.
Right.
It's about creating a space, like a sense of spaciousness, where thoughts can come and go without disturbing, like, your inner peace.
Okay, I'm definitely going to need some more guidance on this one. It sounds kind of abstract.
Think of it like watching clouds drift across the sky.
Yeah.
You just observe them without judgment, without attachment. They appear, they disappear, and the vastness of the sky, it remains undisturbed.
I like that. So my mind is the sky, my thoughts are the clouds.
Exactly. And as you practice settling the mind, you start to realize, you are not your thoughts. You're the awareness that observes those thoughts.
That's a pretty profound idea. So it's like I'm creating a distance between myself and my thoughts.
Yes.
They don't have so much power over me.
Exactly. And that's a key step in developing this truly stable and resilient attention.
Wow. Okay. So stage 5, tamed attention. It's all about shifting our focus inward
Mm-hmm.
and cultivating that spacious awareness.
Yep.
What about stage 6? What new challenges await us in this mental marathon?
Stage 6 is called pacified attention, and it builds on the foundation we've established, right?
Okay.
So you're continuing to practice settling the mind, but your awareness, it's becoming even more refined.
So I'm getting better at, like, noticing my thoughts without getting swept away by them.
Yeah, and you start to notice, like, the more subtle distractions you might have missed before,
Ah,
those little flickers of restlessness, maybe boredom, or even that urge to check your phone.
oh, yeah. I know that feeling. It's like there's always a part of me that's looking for a distraction, even when I'm trying to be present.
It's so common,
Yeah.
especially in, our hyper-stimulated world. But the good news is, as you continue to practice settling the mind, those distractions, they become less and less compelling.
So it's like I'm training my attention to be more sensitive, right?
Yeah.
To notice those subtle movements of the mind and gently guide it back to that state of peace.
Precisely. And with consistent practice, that state of peace, it becomes more and more your natural state of being.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to get a glimpse of what it might be like to have that level of control over my attention. But I have to admit, I'm also a little daunted by the journey ahead. We're only on stage 6, and we still have 4 more to go.
It is a gradual process, remember that. Each stage, it's a stepping stone.
Mm.
And the journey itself is as important as the destination.
Okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. We're on stage 7.
All right, stage 7 is called fully pacified attention. And at this stage, you become so adept at recognizing and releasing distractions that the mind, it just remains naturally calm and focused. There's a sense of effortlessness to your attention.
It sounds like we're reaching a whole new level of mastery over our minds.
It's a profound state of mental clarity and stability. The distractions that used to pull you away, they just fade into the background.
I can only imagine how liberating that would feel.
Yeah.
To be free from that constant mental chatter and just be present.
It's a taste of the true freedom that Shamatha offers. And as you continue to practice that freedom, it becomes more and more accessible.
So we've got fully pacified attention, stage 7.
Mhm.
What's next?
Stage 8 is called single-pointed attention. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes single-pointed attention so special?
So in this stage, the mind is so absorbed in the object of meditation that all distractions, they completely fade away.
Wow.
There's no sense of effort or struggle.
That sounds incredible, like achieving pure concentration.
Exactly. The mind becomes one-pointed, completely absorbed in the present moment.
That must take an incredible amount of practice to achieve.
It does. But the rewards are immeasurable. In this state of single-pointed attention, you experience a level of clarity and focus that you never thought possible.
Okay, I'm adding single-pointed attention to my list of, mental superpowers to cultivate.
I like it.
What about stage 9?
Stage 9 is called attentional balance. So by this stage, your attention is so stable and refined that you can effortlessly maintain focus for extended periods of time.
Okay, extended periods of time. How long are we talking here?
The book suggests that in stage 9, you should be able to sustain attention for at least 4 hours.
4 hours. I can barely focus for 4 minutes sometimes.
It's a testament to the power of this practice. And it's important to remember that these stages aren't just like arbitrary milestones. They represent profound shifts in your relationship with your own mind.
It's like we're training our minds to become these, powerful instruments for focus and clarity.
Exactly. And that brings us to the culmination of this path, Shamatha, the 10th stage.
The final frontier. What's it like to reach that level of, attentional mastery?
Shamatha is said to be a state of sublime stability and vividness. It's a level of mental clarity that's honestly beyond anything we can imagine.
That sounds almost superhuman.
It's the realization of the mind's full potential, a state of profound peace and liberation.
Wow. It's hard to even fathom that level of mental discipline.
It is a testament to the power of the human mind. And it's a reminder that we all have the potential to achieve this if we're willing to put in the effort.
This has been an incredible journey through the 10 stages of Shamatha. It's given me a whole new perspective on the possibilities of attention training.
It's a practice that can transform our lives in countless ways, not just in meditation, but in everything we do.
Wow, that journey through the 10 stages, that was pretty intense. I'm starting to see how Shamatha is so much more than just sitting there focusing on your breath. It's like a whole mental makeover.
Yeah, it really is. And the best part is all that work you're doing on the meditation cushion, it doesn't just stay there.
Right.
It spills over into everything else.
That's what I was hoping you'd say, honestly. Because, the idea of reaching those higher stages of Shamatha, it's inspiring, but I also want to know how this can help me deal with,
Yeah,
real life.
like those emails, right?
Yeah, the never-ending emails, the to-do list, it's a mile long.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how does training my attention in this way actually help me with all that?
So think about all those times you get pulled away from what you're trying to do. A notification pops up, you start thinking about a deadline.
Yeah.
You suddenly remember you need to buy milk.
Oh, I'm very familiar with that mental juggling act.
Yeah, and Shamatha, it's like strength training for your attention.
Okay.
You're building those mental muscles so you can stay focused on what matters, even when there's chaos all around you.
So it's like I'm creating a shield almost against all that bombardment.
You're learning to choose where you direct your attention
Yeah.
instead of just constantly reacting, right?
One thing that really struck me when I was reading the excerpt was that Shamatha isn't just about focus, it's also about cultivating compassion. That seemed, I don't know, a little unexpected.
Yeah, but it's crucial because the book makes this argument that true happiness, like the kind that's not fleeting, can't exist without compassion.
So it's not just about achieving, like, laser focus.
Nope. It's about cultivating this state of mind that's focused, but also kind, open, connected to something larger.
I see, yeah. I'm starting to see how all these pieces kind of fit together. The focus, the awareness, the compassion. It creates a more, I don't know, more balanced way
Well,
of being.
and it all starts with paying attention. That's the foundation.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly enlightening, to say the least.
Oh, good.
You've given me a whole new way of thinking about attention and its power. I have to say, though, I'm inspired to try this, but I'm also a little overwhelmed. 10 stages.
I get it.
It's a lot.
But remember, you don't have to tackle all 10 at once. Just start small.
Hmm.
Like, what if you just tried practicing mindful breathing for a few minutes each day?
Okay, yeah. A few minutes, I can do that.
And if you're consistent, you'll start to notice these little shifts in your awareness, your focus, your ability to deal with things. And those little victories, they'll keep you going.
You know what? I'm actually excited to get started now. Curious to see what happens. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the attention revolution. I hope you found it as insightful as I did. And remember, if our minds are truly like those wild elephants, imagine the power that comes from training them. What could you accomplish? What would you experience if you had that kind of control? Try out some of these techniques and see what you discover. Until next time, keep diving deep.